So I remember going to him, asked him about being a dad, and what if I've realized that I've screwed up my kids and I didn't mean to, and I didn't know I was doing it, but now it's clear to me I have and I am. And and I was like just sobbing, tears rolling off my face. And he's like, yeah, this is good. He wasn't too worked up about it. And he's like, yeah, me too. And one of his pieces of advice was, well, what you can do is start being the dad you wish you were then.
Yeah.
Now,
Mhm.
start being that guy today. Where I would start is start less on the externals
Mhm.
and start more on the internals. I remember a younger guy contacting me and he was telling me about how he doesn't have a lot of play in his life. Hey, I don't have a lot of play, a lot of work, a lot of duty, a lot of this, a lot of that. And he told me where he lived. So he lives about a mile and a half in from the beach, the Pacific Ocean. I said, all right, I've got an assignment because he was asking me all these tactical questions.
Yeah, yeah.
How do I incorporate play into my life? I said, all right, I got an assignment for you, an invitation, and please call me once you've completed the assignment and let's get together again.
Yes.
So for the next month, I want you to drive to the beach and I want you to sit there for 10 minutes
Every day.
every day.
Yes.
And I don't care what you do. If you're there longer, great. If it's raining, bring a jacket
Hmm.
and call me. Call me after a month. Now, that was a tough assignment for this guy.
Yeah.
I've not heard from him yet.
He hasn't called you. No.
It doesn't mean he might hear this and choose to complete his
That's it.
assignment.
I'm sure he will. I'm sure he'll hear this.
Or maybe he did complete it and it wasn't necessary. But the key was what I shared with him is I said, become the kind of person
Yes.
who can enjoy going to the beach.
Hmm.
He told the story about, my daughter and she loves going to the beach and she just wants me to take her there and just throw the frisbee.
Yeah.
And he's like, but I can't ever find time and I'm a big deal and you don't understand how stressed and worried I am and how much the world requires of me. I'm like, yeah, I get all that too.
Yep.
But let's just start. Do you have 10 minutes a day? He's like, well, I could find 10 minutes. I'm like, well, let's just start with becoming the kind of person
Yeah.
who could sit there at the beach and then let's carry on the conversation.
Hmm. Oh, my heart just jumped to the first month that I lived here. I did go to sunrise every single day for a month, rain or
Come
shine.
on.
And
Nice.
no one challenged me. It was like this gift that I couldn't wait to open, right? But then once I actually get a streak going, I like to finish the streak. So that helps. But let's do a little playful hypothetical assignments around play and around become the kind of dad that will. So I'll throw it out, you throw it out. So the beach, the 30 days at the beach or some beautiful nature place would be an example. Let's see. Oh, I just right before this, I did get on the floor and wrestled three of my four daughters. Can't really fend off all four right
Oh,
now. I need
nice.
like three of the
Nice.
four tickle wrestle, full on, over 5 minutes of wrestling, and very few tears for the most part. It was all joy. But a tickle challenge would be an example of like, hey, get on the floor and wrestle and tickle your kids, right? There's an example of a play type challenge or assignment. You use the word assignment. Throw out another example.
One that I really like is ride your bike or walk
Hmm.
to wherever the thing is.
Yeah.
Ride your bike to get coffee with a friend, a daughter, a kid. Um, we did a we did a hike to a friend's house for dinner once, where we phoned him up. Well, he lived 2 towns away, up over a mountain pass,
Yes.
and so he said, "Okay, it's so and so's birthday. Let's invite the teenager who kind of wants to do something with the uncles. Let's phone up our friend John. Hey, John, we're coming for dinner. Can we come on the whatever day? Yep, no problem. Great. Well, we're coming over the pass. Be looking for us with headlamps. It was amazing. So you can do the bite-sized version
Hmm.
of hop on a skateboard or a bike, or it can be the maybe more ambitious.
Yeah, yeah. And there we could go on and on, but there's a few for you. And you already shared the one about on your way to work, do something unexpected and then don't wash your hands and head in. I mean, there's so many of these kind of playful, and I do appreciate it. And I'm going to send our listeners to your book and to your podcast archive of just like this is how we're meant to live. It truly not with these borders of this is segmented and this is segmented, and I have to get through. And the narrative that you opened up, the first question, the first response was like, if I tell myself this narrative, then it doesn't help me bring joy into the present. So let's go here, though. Craig McConnell. You've written about him. I know he's made a big impact. I actually don't know how long ago it was he passed, but I'd love for you to reflect on Craig McConnell and any things you learned that would be helpful to us dads from his life.
Cool. I want to say August. August is the anniversary of his passing, and I think he's maybe gone 6 years now. I could be off a year or
Okay.
two, so it could be five. He was a foundational um, founder, I guess, contributor to the original team at Ransom Heart.
Oh, wow.
So John Eldridge, Craig, Bart Hansen, Gary Barkalow, Morgan Snyder. Those were kind of the original OG guys. I'm sure there were some others, but they were the anchors that began that all in the, I guess, early 2000s.
Mhm.
So Craig was a pastor in Orange County or in LA County, actually, Redondo Beach area, and subsequently gotten to know his family much better. And his son-in-law I spent time with. He's a great dude. So Craig was this guy who just had a lot of levity about him, and he had like a professional comedian set of shticks, you know?
Yes.
You just whatever you were talking about, he found a way to make it hilarious where you would cry from laughing. Well, he
Yes.
also had this way about he could be just dead serious about with vulnerability
Mhm.
around things that mattered. So I remember going to him at a men's retreat that we had and asked him about being a dad and what if I've realized that I've screwed up my kids and I didn't mean to and I didn't know I was doing it, but now it's clear to me I have and I am. And he was, and I was like just sobbing, tears rolling off my face. And he's like, "Yeah, this is good."
This is
He
good.
was like just kind of older brother like in the moment. He wasn't too worked up about it. And he's like, "Yeah, me too." And one of his pieces of advice was, um, well, what you can do is start being the dad you wish you were then.
Yeah.
Now,
Hmm.
start being that guy today.
Hmm.
And he kind of went on to tell us a couple stories about some restoration that had happened in his relationships with his kids. So that's one. And then the quote that you referenced specifically, probably from the writing, was
Yeah.
he had this great way about, again, keeping it light
Yeah.
of, he's like, you know what, there's a real grace in life. I'm like, well, great. What is it?
Yeah.
Tell me, Craig. Well, we'll never know the fullness of our glory,
Mhm.
and we'll never fully appreciate how much a pain in the ass we are.
Both sides, both
It's
sides.
like two truths. You will never have full clarity on either of these truths, and
Hmm.
they're both true. And I was like, okay, I think you're right. That is a grace.
This poem that we've been referencing, I've never in 7 years of this podcast asked an author, a poet. I'm not sure what you call someone who writes poems, a poet, right? To read a poem. And I don't know if you even have it pulled up right now, but you wrote it. You'll have to tell us how long ago. Tent Bound, a poem about midlife and new horizons. And a lot of my questions have actually, I had one set of direction for this, and then I discovered this poem, and so I've threaded most of my questions have come from this poem, and I've been texting it to friends all morning. So I like to I kind of like to binge some of my preparation for these podcasts. And so many friends have been impacted already. And instead of reading the whole post, just the poem part, and we'll send guys, we'll make them go read the reflection portion. But would you be willing to read Tent Bound for us?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, let me by way of just intro, I
Yeah,
will just
please.
tell a little bit of a just a backstory
Hmm.
to let me pull it up real quick. So I've got it. Okay, I think I've got it pulled here. Yeah, so the the topic where this came from is I was on a adventure trip with some buddies. I spent a lot of time in backcountry environments, and our favorite is when we're off trail. So, hop a pass, drop over into a valley, climb another pass, and some miles later, call it home. And what was really special about this trip was we had a big ambition, but the weather came in and we were tent bound. And it turned out it was a rhythm of every day. So we had like a 5, 6 day window, and we were 2 or 3 days in this rhythm of tent bound by about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, predominantly until the next day. It was a lot of time in a tent.
Yeah.
And so we would like occasionally come out when the sprinkles would stop, or we'd grab a fly rod and go catch a few on this beaver pond we were near. But they were small excursions, so a lot of time alone in solitude. So I ended up reading a couple books on my phone, just kind of like Kindle, listening to some music, sometimes just staring at the ceiling.
Mhm.
I had been marinating in a couple poems through the summer and a couple songs that you can read about referenced in the post itself. And so this one line just really stuck with me from this author, David White. And the line is, "No one told me it would come to this.
Mhm.
No one told me it would come to this." And all summer, I had been filling in the next lines. No one told me it would come to what?
Yeah.
Like this, the ones in the tens,
Mhm.
and so I kind of just started like living my life in the rearview mirror, articulating to myself, why is this line so powerful to me? And I realized that a lot of it was some version of, would things have been different if someone would have told me?
Mm.
Would I made different choices? Would I have listened to them? Would I have even listened if they said, okay, sit down, I've got a projector for you. We're going to thumb through the
Yeah.
thumbnails of all these ones and tens. And the challenge is, this is your life, go forth and live it.
Yeah.
I would have hated that. But there's just something that was troubling to me recurringly around this question of, gosh, but I didn't know.
Mm.
I didn't know. So for me, this being in the tent, wrestling with this question, then I decided to just start penning it. And I'll show you here. I've got these little field notes. I have, volumes of them. I like this national park series. So I had torn out a couple pages, brought it on the trip, and just started penning these down. So what came out is this poem that then got revised over time. But this is the final version. So Tent Bound, a poem about midlife and new horizons. Tent Bound. No one told me it would come to this. No one told me it would come to this. Tent bound with a full life of songs and heartbreak. Just outside the zipper door, thunder's convincing accusation. Am I beyond the reach of love? Am I beyond the reach of love? I've been lost for a while, tiptoeing in someone else's boots. The trail undefined, the end remaining out of sight. Knowing only, knowing only from here to there. Cresting midlife's great divides, an inventory I take. the path, the path that led to here, a dress rehearsal, a preamble. Only now, only now am I equipped for the liminal edges of this frontier. Adjusting my bearing, dressed in alpenglow, the new horizon awaits my arrival. The new horizon awaits my arrival. Calling down sweet reverence to be the lamp unto my feet. When will I know the weight of my own glory? Tent bound.
Aaron, I I'm going to encourage the dads listening to just rewind and do a slow listen, a second pass, because you can. I truly could spend a day zipped up in a tent with bad weather and just this poem and it's about a 5 minute read of your reflect. You kind of unpack it in this post that we'll link out to the dads. I want to end with just asking you, with that as a backdrop and hope, this idea of a horizon. Like I've been like there's a hopeful future for every dad listening right now. Da- I'd love to just invite you to speak life, courage, risk, speak into me and the dads as just kind of any closing remarks to this conversation we've had today, and then say a short prayer over us to end.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, I think what's coming up for me is that it's normal to feel that the end is out of sight and only being able to see from where you stand to just around the next corner or the next step. And I don't meet many guys who love that.
It's true.
Most of us are engaged in our life in such a way that in the roles that we play and the space we occupy in our families and work and communities is somehow, some way we have this compulsion to need to know. I have it too. And what I find is I would encourage each of you, another David White poem line that he has from another poem. He says, start with, take the first step,
Mhm.
not the second, not the third. Start with the step close in. Start with the step close in. And he says that the pale ground beneath your feet, which is it's from where we stand. It's the place that we inhabit, the life that we have, the family that we have,
Mhm.
the day that we have, the neighbors that we have, the the marriage that we have, the place of engagement that begins is in the now, in the here. And the here, it turns out, is a hard place to be. And I'm I'm cultivating and encourage you how possible and hopeful it is to cultivate the practice of being here, to being here now, and recognizing that the life of God in us, in the more of us that belongs to the more of God, then the more of being here becomes possible.
Thank you, Aaron. Would you say a short prayer over all of
Yeah.
us dads?
Let me read you one.
Yeah.
So Eugene Peterson, as we talked about, he is absolutely one of my favorites. And the Message translation is one of the places I play the most. Is so he writes in Proverbs. Um, so Proverbs 3. I love this rendition. So 3:17. All right. So as a prayer for you, fellow companions, right?
Yeah.
Fellow journeymen. Trust God from the bottom of your heart. Don't try to figure out everything on your own. Don't try to figure out everything on your own. Listen for God's voice in everything you do and everywhere you go. He's the one who will keep you on track. He's the one who will keep you on track. Bless you, my friends.